everybody, and welcome back to EBnet Stream. I'm joined today by Wilmi van der Walt, who is the manager in the Retirement Funds Conduct Supervision Department at the Conduct Authority, the FSCA. And she's going to talk to us today about something that I will admit I'm not 100% sure of. And therefore, I'm looking really forward to getting some more details around whistleblowing and the duties and responsibilities of that. So, Wilmi, welcome to EBnet Stream.
Thank you, Natalie. Thank you for having me.
So let's start at the beginning of this conversation. We're talking whistleblowing and we're talking about the duty to report. Perhaps we can lay the foundation by discussing what are these duties for retirement fund trustees and principal officers?
So everyone always refers to the Pension Funds Act and Section 7C and Section 7D, which is 7C is the object of the board and 7D is the duties of the board. And in those two sections of the PFA, you'll find various duties. One I can name is to act with due care and skill, avoid conflict of interest. And also board members have a fiduciary duty towards the fund and also its members. Yeah.
So whistleblowing is a trustee duty. Okay. And that's, like you say, like all the other trustee duties that are set out in Section 7C and 7D. But what specifically should I blow the whistle on if I was a trustee?
So in terms of the Act, in terms of the Pension Funds Act, if we look at Section 7A(4), there's a duty on a board member to report on any matter or any material matter that relates to the affairs of a pension fund, which in the opinion of that board member may seriously prejudice the fund or its members. And in the same breath, the Pension Funds Act also puts that same reporting duty on a principal officer in Section 8, subsection 6, where a principal officer is also required to report on any material matter that, in his opinion, his or her opinion, can negatively affect the members of the fund and the fund itself.
There's so many words there where there may be grey areas. So the first is in his or her opinion, and the second is the word material. And I always struggle, and I know where I filled these fiduciary appointments before, these fiduciary positions before. You know, what is material for me might not be material for you. And how does a trustee measure that this is material and I should report it?
So I think what we need to address that question, Natalie, is maybe just look at what is a fiduciary duty, and maybe that can assist. So it's a legal and ethical obligation of on one party to act solely in the best interest of the other party. So the fiduciary in this instance would be the trustee or the principal officer or any other officer of the fund. And then the other party would be the members of the fund. And I would look at the core principles of that, which is any officer of the fund needs to put the members' interest central to any aspect that they have to make decisions on. All actions must benefit the members of the fund. They have to, if you look at care and what care would entail, they have to manage the assets responsibly. And good faith means they have to act with honesty, and their actions have to be trustworthy. So just to, make it a bit more personal, I would look at those principles just to explain what a fiduciary duty means. And just to touch on what you said, there might be grey areas, maybe in the industry, but with the FSCA, there's no grey areas. Everyone knows what is right and what is wrong. And if something might prejudice the members of a fund, then it's wrong. Then it's against your fiduciary duties.
I don't know if you're comfortable to reveal this. How many whistleblowing calls do you get in a month?
I don't have the exact number, but there have been a few over the past few years. And we have taken action where we find that, that people didn't adhere to their fiduciary duties towards the fund. But I would say that the retirement fund industry, we really appreciate people coming forward. And I can say from experience that that has happened quite a number of times. We've had an instance over the past few years where someone did blow the whistle, a trustee, and within the board, he was suspended or removed in terms of a decision by the board. And we've actually taken regulatory action. We issued a directive to the fund to say that they must, what do you say?
Reinstate
that. Thank you. My English just went away. They have to reinstate that board member in his capacity as board member.
Sure. It's interesting. And to me, as you're talking, the only example I can think of, and I think that's because I'm one of those good people who you referred to earlier, but the only example I can think of is the late payment of contributions by an employer. Is that a whistleblowing thing or event?
Yes, definitely, because it's a non-compliance in terms of the act. But others, to name a few examples, would be service providers not billing in terms of the administration agreements.
Yes.
It can be when they collect arrear contributions that they don't adhere to, what their service level agreements say. Sometimes there isn't a service level agreement that regulates payment of fees, or service providers, in the tracing space that submits fraudulent claims, to funds. And so there's a few examples. And those type of things go directly against a trustee's fiduciary duties, or any other officer that is responsible for approving fees, knowing very well that these fees aren't in terms of service level agreements. Yeah.
So given this kind of world that we live in of regulation and compliance and kind of duty, we see a lot of funds and employers moving their funds into these commercial umbrella funds. And part of the reason for that, and we can go through all of them, but I know for a fact one of the reasons is, I'm outsourcing my fiduciary responsibilities and duties. Do I outsource this responsibility of whistleblowing?
No. If you look at the Financial Institutions Protection of Funds Act of 2001, Section 2 thereof, it puts that obligation on anyone who is in charge or who invest or pledge or whatever the case may be, puts that fiduciary duty on that person. So you are definitely not divested if you are sitting on a manco on a umbrella fund. And you might become aware that, investments aren't doing so well, and you've heard some of the decisions, report back that you got from the board. So you don't escape that duty.
EBnet is proud to bring you top quality content from experts across the financial services industry in South Africa and internationally, for free. Your support helps us in doing this. All we ask is that you subscribe to our channels by clicking the subscribe button below. Share this video with others you think will benefit from it, and give us thumbs up if you are enjoying the content. That way, you help us help you. Thank you from the team at EBnet. For more great content, please visit www.ebnet.co.za.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. You've actually taken my breath away with that one, which I think could be a first. But okay, so management committees need to, I mean, obviously there is there's a moral obligation or story here that a management committee needs to obviously care for the members in their sub-fund. But what you're saying and what I'm hearing you say is that there is a statutory duty here for a management committee person or a joint forum representative that if they see something naughty, they need to blow the whistle.
Yes, I mean, if I was a member of a big umbrella fund, and I was only represented by the management committee, I would expect that, the ManCo would really treat my benefits. They would act in my best interest. And if that
Sure.
is blowing the whistle against the board that they know might not have taken proper decisions in service providers, or I would want that ManCo member to come forward and say, listen, I suspect that ABC is not quite right. Yeah, and I
Sure.
think anyone would expect that from someone that represents them at at board level. Yeah, and I think it's important, especially on umbrella funds, it's that ManCo members really make themselves heard, and not only assume that duty because I might be the director of one of the participating employers, but those are your employees, and you need to take care of them and make sure that they have a benefit that is overseen responsibly. And yeah, no, I think people need to take that responsibility more
Sure.
serious.
Sure, and I'd agree with you there. I think that all too often, trustees who transfer their funds or employers who transfer their funds into umbrella funds, they have this assumption that all that weight of duty is gone. And I think with Kofi as well, which we're going to talk about just now, I think there are certain responsibilities that I think management committees need to think about. But let's come back to that. I think let's just wrap up the process of whistleblowing. If I needed to or wanted to blow the whistle, how would I go about that?
So the FSCA has a link on its website where you can actually blow the whistle. And that portal isn't managed by the FSCA. It's outsourced to, an external service provider. And then those complaints or reports are channeled through to the relevant department under which that complaint would fall or report would fall, and then it's treated from there. But when it's referred from the service provider to the FSCA, the identity of the person submitting the whistleblowing report, it's not shared with us. So the identity is completely protected, and the identity of a whistleblower can only be shared with the consent of that person making the report. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Sorry, Natalie. We have received in the past, actually, the majority of the whistleblowing reports that we've received in the retirement fund space has come through directly via email, and to either Cordelia or a manager in the department. And those reports are treated as protected disclosures. So the identity is also not shared. Only on the consent of the whistleblowing party we can share the identity.
And once one of these, I nearly called it a complaint, but one of these advices or reports comes in, what is the process after that?
So irrespective of where the report would emanate from, if it's referred from the service provider or if we receive it directly via email from the individual, then we look at it and we treat every single matter. So every matter that comes through to us, it's recorded and it's investigated. Yeah, and we welcome and we actually thank the industry for bringing these things to our attention, because the regulator, we aren't involved in the day-to-day running of any retirement fund. And it really assists us to be proactive and preemptive. If we have, participation from industry, if anyone knows of anything that is wrong and they report it, we really appreciate it, because in some instances we wouldn't have known the intricate details of what is happening on a particular fund. So we really welcome these reports.
If I choose to, could I blow the whistle anonymously, or when I log it, do I have to give my personal details?
I think the portal for the third party makes provision for you to log it anonymously. I think what we've seen is, how easy it is to create an email address these days. You can email a report, and you can say that it is from individual ABC, and we'll treat it as, a whistleblowing report. We cannot. There's so many things happening in the retirement fund industry. We don't ignore these reports. We really interrogate them, investigate, and record them.
So Wilmi, thank you for the conversation. And I guess the newest thing that is going to be happening in retirement funds is Kofi. Does Kofi change any of these duties or responsibilities, or broaden the coverage of whistleblowing responsibilities?
So the duty to report will remain. It doesn't change. Kofi will not change fiduciary duty that a board member has, or any officer of the fund. That stays exactly the same. The only addition in that regard is when we look at principal officers. So Section 8 of the Pension Funds Act will be supplemented with additional duties of a principal officer, that specifically Section 8 will provide that a principal officer has a fiduciary duty towards the fund and its members. So as the provision stands now, the fiduciary duty is not specifically mentioned in Section 8, but we draw that fiduciary duty in terms of Section 2 of the Financial Institutions Protection of Funds Act to POs. But with Kofi, that would be specifically provided, that the PO has a duty to report, and the fiduciary duty towards the fund and its members.
Okay. So I guess the bottom line, if a trustee or a principal officer, or any officer of a fund for that matter, feels uncomfortable with a decision, or can kind of in any way attribute prejudice to members of a fund, or something is not going quite right, they would go onto the FSCA's website and blow the whistle. They can do that anonymously, and there are protections against that or for that, and the FSCA will then investigate and resolve and report, like you've summarized. Thank you for that.
So I think in South Africa, just to latch on to what you've said, so the Pension Funds Act specifically makes provision for protected disclosures, and then that is on the back of the Protected Disclosures Act of 2000 that we have in South Africa. So both of the one provision in the Pension Funds Act and the Protected Disclosures Act, they say the same, in the sense that there's remedies if you find that you've blown the whistle, but there's prejudice against you then, or you're victimized or suspended, like I've said before. We've taken action where we found that has happened. And there's other remedies as well, because if you have to blow the whistle and the consequences or some of the implications of you blowing the whistle, and that might be losing your position or losing your job or whatever, the Act provides for remedies, both acts. The provisions in the Pension Funds Act and the Protected Disclosures Act. So they are protection for whistleblowers.
Thanks, Wilmi. I think it's important that trustees and management committees feel assured that if they were to raise these, what can sometimes be very uncomfortable conversations, that there is a protection out there for them, and that certainly shouldn't make them scared to raise some of the issues that may be lurking. Although, as you say, I suspect in our industry it's generally neat and tidy, but there are instances, and so it's important to know this process and understand it.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, if you just look at some of the media releases within the retirement fund space of the past few years by the FSCA, a lot of regulatory action, we've put in there that trustees or any of the officers failed in their fiduciary duties. So it's really an important concept that people have to take seriously. And if there are other individuals that see that things aren't going quite right and members are prejudiced, please come forward to the FSCA and we will investigate and record the report.
Lovely. Thank you so much. Wilmi, it definitely helps to know the process and to understand the process better. So thank you for taking the time to chat to me today, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. Thank you, Natalie. Thank you for having me. And I really appreciate the conversation. I echo what you said. It's really an important thing for officers of the fund to know that they must and can whistleblow when they find something is not right. Thank you so much for the opportunity to have a chat.